Do you like to swim or take a bath perhaps? Well, I do because I love water. Today we're going to read a book about water and the many different ways that it changes. Hello, boys and girls. My name is Mr. Rhodes, and I teach 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade at the Oakdale STEAM Elementary School. We're going to read a very fun book today about water. I love water. I like to drink it. I like to swim in it. I like to bathe in it. In fact, I love when it rains outside because sometimes I like to play in it. What about you? Well, we're going to see all the different ways that water changes over time. This book is called Water's Way, and it's written by Lisa Westberg Peters and illustrated by Ted Rand. Let's go on a journey with the water. Water has a way of changing. It can rise from the sea or fall from the clouds. It can drift in a fog or lie still in a winter pond. Every day, water is changing all across the land and sea and sky, and changing inside Tony's house, too. There's water in Tony's house. It was early winter. Outside, a breeze blew into the hills, and the smell of the sea filled the morning air. Inside, Tony kept an eye on the sky and a hand on his brand new sled. He was hoping for snow. Behind him, steam rose from a pot on the stove, and the smell of soup filled the room. Hey, guess what? This water in the air. Isn't that crazy? When the moist breeze from the sea met the hills, it rose and cooled off. Clouds formed in the sky. When the steam from the soup pot hit the cool kitchen window, it covered the glass with a foggy curtain. Outside, a few raindrops splashed on the ground. Oh, this would be so much fun for me. The air wasn't cold enough for snow. Soon houses and hillsides shimmered behind the sheets of rain. Inside, Tony wrote his name on the fogged window and peeked through. Drips streaked down the glass from each letter. My mom didn't like this. Some of the rain collected into puddles. Some of it soaked into the ground, and tree roots sucked it from the soil. Some of it seeped into the earth where it would creep through the rocks. A tiny puddle formed on Tony's windowsill. Tony poked at it. There'd be no sledding today. In the warmth of the afternoon sun, roofs dried out. Puddles shrank, evergreens lost their glisten. In the kitchen, the fog on the glass and the puddle on the windowsill disappeared. I think that's called evaporation. By evening, a nearby creek grew wide and full from the day's rain. It surged downhill, down to the sea. After supper, Tony climbed the stairs for his bath. He turned on the tap, full blast, and a steamy torrent filled the tub. When the creek reached the sea, salty waves washed in and out, around and around until the creek blended into the sea. When Tony stepped in for his bath, he added a few drops of green soap. He sailed his boats in and out, around and around his bathtub ocean until the green streams faded and blurred. Have you ever pretended you were in the ocean while you were in the tub? The wind stirred up the surf and a bit of the sea escaped into the sky. It was invisible, but the smell of the sea filled the air. Tony whipped up bubbles in his ocean, and the smell of soap filled the room. As the breeze from the sea met cooler air over the land, tiny drops formed around specks of dust. Each drop was too small to see, but together they made clouds. As Tony headed for bed, he found another window clouded, this time from his bath. You ever got out of the tub and wiped your hand on the mirror? That night, the air turned cold, cold enough for the tiny drops in the clouds to freeze into ice crystals. They grew larger and heavier. What do you think is going to happen next? Let's see. All night, Tony dreamed of sledding. He stayed warm and cozy beneath a mound of blankets, but the fog on the bathroom window froze into a frosty curtain. By dawn, the clouds were thick with ice crystals. The larger ones, too heavy to float, began to fall. That's right, it started snowing. In the morning, Tony woke early. He quickly scratched a hole in the frost. Was it cold enough for snow? Houses and hillsides vanished behind a wild flurry of snowflakes. The snow settled on the rooftops and the evergreens. It covered the new layer of ice on the puddles. A snowflake landed on Tony's face. He wished it would last forever, but it soon melted in his smile because water has a way of changing. So yeah, all that snow is water. I think it's really cool the way that water changes over time. You can go from the ocean and escape into the air. It's evaporated water, and it can cool down and condense into clouds. And then it can fall as precipitation and rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Water is really cool. I think we change just like water does. What about you? I think that's why it's so cool. Thanks for joining me. Oh, wait, I have a friend. My friend is going to help me demonstrate something that I want you to try at home. The same way water changes is the same way we're going to make my friend Ping the penguin change. And I want you to try it as well. So Penguin is going to use his imagination to pretend like he is in the ocean. So like Ping, lay down in the ocean. He is water. Eventually, the sun gets very, very hot, and it beams down on the water, and it makes the water jump up out of the ocean and float very slowly into the sky. Once it gets up there, it's going to cool off and become a cloud. And as it's in the cloud, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until the cloud explodes. Now, what do you think will happen when that cloud explodes? You guessed it. It's going to rain. What happens when it rains? Water falls. Now, don't just fall. Be very, very careful. Ping's a stuffed animal, so he's fine. But just like Ping, you can be a raindrop as well and change just like the book.